All right, this is special board meeting of January 21st, 2021. It's now 5:32. Roll call, please, Mary.
President Lay,
Here.
Vice President Herrera,
Here.
Clerk Chavez,
Here.
Member Cortese,
Here.
Member Doe.
Here.
Thank you, everyone. We have an opening statement for agenda item 1.02. Are there any members of the public who would like to provide public comment to the board on a closed session agenda item at this time? Please submit your public comment online by accessing the form on the district homepage at www.esuhsd.org. Please limit your written comments to no more than 1,000 characters in length. Public comments submitted online will be read into the record. You may also raise your virtual hand in Zoom to request to speak. You will have 2 minutes to speak. Please note all meetings are recorded. All regular and special meetings to the Board of Trustees and Board Study Session are streamlined on meeting nights and are also available for viewing the day after the meeting by accessing the district YouTube channel listed on the district webpage at www.esuhsd.org under the quick link section. The board is not able to respond to items that are not on the agenda or any personnel issues. Your comments will be noted and will be directed to the superintendent and or the appropriate staff member for response. Do I see anyone raise hand or?
There's no virtual hand raised and there's no online notes.
There's no
All right, thank you. All right, thank you. Recess to close session. Okay, we have the agenda item 4.01 as welcome to special board meeting of January 21st, 2021. Any person may address the board on any item on the meeting agenda. Member of the public, please submit your public comment online by accessing the form on the district homepage at www.esuhsd. Please limit your written comment to no more than 1,000 characters in length. Public comments submitted online will be read into the record. You may also raise your virtual hand in Zoom to request to speak. You will have 3 minutes to speak. Please note, all meetings are recorded. All regular and special meetings of the Board Trustee and Board Study Sessions are streamlined on meeting nights and are also available for viewing the day after the meeting by accessing the district YouTube channel listed on the district webpage at www.esuhsd.org under the quick link section. The board is not able to respond to items that are not on the agenda or any personnel issues. Your comment will be read into the record and will be directed to the superintendent and or the appropriate staff member for response. Interpretation of this meeting in Spanish and Vietnamese can be heard by accessing the link and following instructions shown on the agenda and the district website. So we would move to adoption of agenda 5.01. The superintendent and board member may request that item to be removed from the agenda or consideration and or carried to a future board meeting for consideration and or action.
Madam President,
Yes.
there are two items of public written comment for 4.01. I don't know if you'd like to address those at this time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it's I think we need to be open for 4.01 for welcome the explanation to the public comments.
Okay, I will read that at this time. So 4.01 public comment comes from Julio Pardo. Julio Pardo is writing as president of 187 East Foothills of the CSEA. What I'm writing about is my personal opinion and does not represent the opinion of CSEA nor of Chapter 187 East Foothills. I have thought long and hard since the insurrection of 2 weeks ago and how it relates to our district. Although the district offices have not been stormed by irate mobs, there have been some heated discussions in the past. It does not help to have the spread of rumors and misinformation. The results of 2 weeks ago show they are dangerous. 3 years ago, the administration tried a new tactic. Members of administration in both unions were asked to attend a training to try to learn and how we can work together for a brighter future. 2 years ago, I was able to attend this training. Last year, more than 50 district employees, administration, certificated, and classified attended. I feel this training is allowing us to learn how to truly work as a team. I'm hopeful that we can start agreeing on how we can resolve issues by looking and understanding the other viewpoint, and remember that we're all here for the same thing, the success and welfare of the students. The events of 2 weeks ago are a warning of what happens when the animosity goes too far. I hope we never reach that point. Thank you for your time. That's the end of written public comment.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Glenn Vanderzee. So on 5.01, I don't see anyone want to change any item on the agenda. So we're going to move to 6.01, discussion and action regarding superintendent search process. Peggy Lynch, lead consultant, leadership associate 1, Gaza, co-lead consultant, and leadership associate Eric Andrew. Please.
Thank you very much. We're excited about the opportunity to be here with you tonight.
Excuse me, I think we can diminish that shared screen if it's just going to be a frozen agenda view, and we can just allow people to see more folks on the call.
The question I have is, Peggy, do you need any of these attachments opened?
We will later probably need the timeline to work from during this part.
That's different, yeah.
Yeah, the 6 topics that are there, I can walk the board through those as we're going. I think that, and at some point later, we'll need to have them look at the survey. But the discussion outline, it might be helpful, but if you want to make it small, that's okay. But we will need the timeline at some point.
Sorry, I hadn't noticed those 6 items there, and they're helpful for others. So I retract my comment.
Okay. Well, it is nice to see everybody, of course, but I think Becky can actually share too, and if that makes it easier at some point, we'll work with that. But we wanted just those 6 topics are kind of the major ones. There's a longer list that I think we've provided as well. That's the discussion outline. If you want to put that one up, that might be helpful, Chris. It's the and I think you can make it, because we can work through that, and I don't know if you can shrink it or not, but maybe a little bit. But these are the major things we have to talk about. Just the search process. We'll talk about the board's liaison. We'll talk about the executive superintendent, the executive assistant's guidelines, which Becky's, I think, already provided Mary. We'll need a few items from you, which we'll work through those. But, and I can actually talk from those, and I'll facilitate it. The biggest part of our discussion really is the characteristics, qualities, experiences you want in the new superintendent, as well as the challenges and qualities, great qualities of the district. And then that final timeline, which is the big piece for you, and you'll need your calendars to kind of do that. But just to quickly kind of go through the first part, the timeline, when we get to that, that really defines the search process for us. But for Brian, who's new on the board, and we just kind of quickly, this is our first meeting with you to discuss those qualities, experiences, et cetera, that you want, as well as to determine what are the stakeholder groups that you want us to get input from. We'll talk a little bit about that part of it, developing a position description based on that. And then really how the survey and all the input comes to you, the summary report you'll get, and then how we're going to advertise, our recruitment process, all of those kinds of things. And then also talk about our deadline for application, the work that we do with the potential candidates, et cetera. So it's kind of as we go through the timeline, you'll actually see the process in place, and I think that'll be helpful as well. So I think going back up to the beginning there, the board, a liaison and spokesperson for the board, typically, Vaughn, that's the board president, if that works for you. We would, we'll communicate with all the board, but if there's something specific, usually the board president is our contact person, if that works for you.
Yes.
Okay. And then Mary, I believe, has received everything. Becky does a lot of work with our executive assistant. Becky is a former executive assistant. She was actually mine in San Diego Union High School District. And we recruited her. I recruited her. I said she had to come with us. But she provides a lot of background, a lot of things for Mary to work from, sample agenda items, all of those kinds of things. Mary, we are going to need the board members' email addresses and cell phones, and if we need that. So if some point you can just send that to us, that'd be great. The input from the board, stakeholder groups, and online survey, you're going to talk about the groups in a little bit, about what groups you want us to talk about and all that. And then what we develop a position description. When we finish the survey and all the input, you're going to get that whole document. You're going to get everything. You're going to get all the survey results. You're going to get all the input sessions, notes. You're going to get everything. And we, from that, develop a position description. It's really like the job description, but it's focused on what your district is uniquely needing in the new superintendent. We'll ask you to respond to that. Just give us feedback in general on it. And then we'll talk about the online survey, when we're going to start it. We'll talk about that as part of the timeline. And then what languages you want us to put it in. We almost always do it, of course, in English and Spanish. If there's other languages that you want us to use that you think would be helpful for community, we probably have them. We've done a lot of different kinds of school districts, so you'll just have to tell us that. The next part about the timeline, that really is a big part of that. And we probably want to spend a little bit of time on that now, if that's okay with you, because that'll wrap up a few of these items before we move into the input about what you're looking for. So before we do that, Juan and Eric, is there anything else you want me to say or you need to add?
No, I think that's great. And I'd also like to welcome the student board member there. That appreciate that as well.
Great. Juan, how about you? Anything else? So Becky, can you put up the timeline, the draft?
Sure. I just wanted to first say that we already have the survey drafted in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. Mary and I have collaborated on that, so it's done.
Okay, perfect. That's great. Thank you. I figured you probably had, actually. That's not unusual. So the draft timeline, obviously this is the January 21st. We're meeting with you to talk about those characteristics and timeline and all that. We're looking at the February 3rd and 4th to get input from your community. We'll work with Mary to set up a schedule. She actually has a sample of schedules and how we do that, but that a lot will depend on who you want us to talk with regarding the input and what groups. We have some standard groups that we usually work with, but we want to make sure we address your community. And then in January and February, we'll be working to identify possible candidates. I think, Becky, we already have requests for applications, I believe around 16 or 17. Right. Okay. So we already have a request for applications for 16, 17 without a position description, anything else. And then we'll be advertising in EdCal February 8th and 15th. I'm going to suggest that we move our deadline for applications to the February 26th. That gives a little more time between the advertising and the actual deadline. That doesn't really affect you. It really affects us, but it seems like that would be a little bit better, and it works well for Eric and for Juan as well. So if that's okay with you, unless you have some specific thing, we're going to move that to Friday, February 26th.
Peggy, Trustee Chavez has her hand up.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Funk. I had a question in terms of the advertising. I'm new to this. So is EdCal like the typical place where you promote, or are there other spaces, ed spaces that where this can be promoted to ensure that there is a diverse pool? I mean, I don't know anything about EdCal, so yeah.
So EdCal is the state administrator's newspaper. It is the biggest place that superintendent candidates check for ideas of what's in the searches, what searches are out there. We also advertise on our website. Becky and her fabulous husband, who's techie, have developed a way of alerting people out. There's what do we call them? I'm not exactly sure the title, but it's a news blast that goes out to all people who are registered in our system to let them know what searches are available. But EdCal is the biggest search instrument in the state for candidates for positions. So we always use EdCal.
In addition to that, we also have members on several of the professional organizations, and we're connected with them. So we'll be reaching out to, for example, CALSA, CASA, and those organizations as a part of the outreach as well.
And when we've advertised on EdCal, we've received requests for applications and applications from candidates from throughout the United States. It's viewed as one of the premier advertising for superintendent positions.
Yeah.
Okay, that's helpful. Having a diverse pool of candidates is
Absolutely.
really important to us. So that's helpful context. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So in February, once we have that, we'll be working from February 22nd to whenever we meet with you to go over all the references and background checks, et cetera. We would need to meet with you in a Zoom meeting, assuming nothing's changed between now and that time, around March 18th. The 17th will not work for me, but it might work for Juan, but usually we try to all three be part of that. On the 18th or let's see, the 19th is a Friday, so I don't know that you want to do a Friday meeting, but that 18th meeting is typically around 3 hours. And that's where we will review every candidate, all the materials. You'll go through all that. We'll have who we think are the best match based on our reference checks. Our reference checks could tell us why you might not want to interview somebody, because there may be something in the background check we've done that might disqualify them. And that meeting, you will decide who you want to interview.
We have a regularly scheduled board meeting on March 18.
Okay, it's hard to combine them because
Starting at 4 into the evening.
yeah, that'd be pretty tough to do both. So we might have to move that to the following week.
Or maybe Tuesday?
Let's see, it closes on the, closing the 26th.
6. Yeah, that could work.
Is that enough time, Becky, to get everything ready between that and March 16th? I don't know where Becky is, so.
And Peggy, that is a closed session meeting, correct?
Yes.
Yes, it's all closed session, Chris, thank you.
It should be okay to prepare materials and get them to the board, particularly if this meeting is going to be virtual and we provide the materials digitally to you.
Right.
So I think that will be fine.
Okay, so if we went to March 16th, does that work for everybody?
Yes.
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 What time?
March 16, so that's Tuesday, right?
Right.
And March 18, we have our regular board meeting.
Right.
We have this week.
Okay, all right, I could arrange the time.
It would be best if we could start as close to 5 because it's 3 hours. It's a hefty meeting.
5.
Members of the board, another option is, since we have 2 board meetings that we've moved to, I think we could condense it to one and just have a longer board meeting, the first board meeting in March, and keep the 18th open for your closed session.
So our regular board meeting will be what, in 11 and 25th of March?
The regular board meeting would
Is
be
March 4th.
the 4th, March 4th.
4th. So
You know, I think it was working with just this Tuesday schedule. I don't know about other board members, than to have to scratch a regular board meeting and then combine them into 2 and do one of our interminable nights, you know. I don't know. I'm kind of mixed about it.
well, I have to arrange something on Tuesday because you know, I have to leave at least at 7:45 because I have to be somewhere at 8 on Tuesday.
Well, then maybe we should go to Chris's suggestion then. What do other board members think?
Or we can start earlier. We can start 4:30 so that we can be done by 7:30. And that gives Vaughn ample time she's not rushing since it's, I heard Peggy say 3 hours. So long as we have those hours, that should be fine.
And I think that's a max, Lorena. I mean, I think we can do it might be a little less than that, but to protect Vaughn and her schedule, 4:30 is fine for me. I think Eric and Juan, if that works for you, it
Yeah.
works for me.
Works for
That
me.
works for me.
Works for me too.
Okay, Brian, how's your schedule? And
I'll
Patty?
work with your schedule.
Okay, great. Patty, are you okay?
I'm fine.
Oh, great,
4:30 on the 16th then.
Okay, perfect.
great.
I hear 4:30 on the 16th.
Yes,
Yeah,
for 3 hours in case we need 3 hours.
yeah,
Hopefully won't be quite that long.
great.
Okay, thanks, Vaughn.
Thank you.
Then we propose for potential interviews, the calendar for February. We were thinking of, well, actually, we think for March of around the 26th. It's a Friday and 27th, if you want 2 days. We often do it in 1 day. It just depends on this board and how you're feeling. But for sure, it's a whole day. So if you go on a Friday, I don't know if people can do a Friday.
Okay. I was entering the other date while you were talking and I couldn't follow both. So this is about what again?
The interview, the actual interview
Oh,
day.
the interviews. And what dates are we looking at?
March 26th is a Friday. I don't know if people can do a Friday. Otherwise, it's the 27th.
The 26th does not work for me at all.
Okay.
Nor does the 27th, but I'm at a conference all day, so.
Well, we could move to later in April, around April 3rd. I don't know what your spring break schedules are like. Don't have that in front of me, but we could move to April 3rd. We're going to need a little time between the meeting on the 16th to prepare materials. It'd be pretty tight. And yeah, we can't do it the same weekend, that's for sure. So if we wanted to move it, we could move it to April 3rd, Saturday, April 3rd.
I can't, I'm going to be out of town from the 26th through the 4th.
Okay.
And the 3rd is problematic for me too, something I can't change with other people. So what about the 2nd? Oh, you're going to be out of town on Friday as well?
Friday, she's going to be out of town.
Hmm.
We could move to the 10th of April.
Are we getting too far in here?
Not if you already have your candidates lined up. They'll already know that they're going to be. It's,
So the week of May 10th, or are we talking precisely May 10th?
April 10th.
April.
Oh, excuse me. Oh, I went to the wrong month.
April 10th is fine for me.
Yeah, it works for me too.
So we need 2 days, Peggy?
Well, here's what we often do, Vaughn, is we'll schedule potentially for 2 days. What some boards do is they'll do it all day Saturday. If they want to, they can schedule the final interviews on Sunday morning, sometimes Sunday. It really depends. You won't know until you know who you want to interview, how long it's going to take. So my recommendation would be, schedule the April 10th and the morning and April 11th. It might not need all of that.
Why wouldn't we do a Friday, Saturday instead of a Saturday, Sunday?
You can do that if Friday the 9th.
Yeah, Friday might be better. I don't want to go on a Sunday because.
Yeah, neither do I.
So if we can go with April 9 and 10, if we need to, then I don't know, was any board member has any other conflict of schedule?
I'm fine with both.
How
What
about-
time, from what time to what time during the day?
Typically, they start around 8 or so. We usually do a board orientation around 8. It takes about a half an hour just to get you oriented with all the stuff, especially since it's Zoom. That takes a little getting it all organized. And then we go pretty much all day on the first day. Now,
What does all day mean?
Till 5 or so. Now, I will say some boards finish faster. And again, you'll know better when you knew how many you're going to interview. Boards typically interview 4, 5, 6.
So I'd rather start 9 and go to 6 if necessary, rather than at 8. You must be a morning person, Peg.
I agree with Monroe. I support that at 9.
It's fine with me.
I'm a night person.
Me too.
So if we go Friday the 9th from 9 to 6, with the possibility of the 10th, you can leave that on your calendar. We may not need it. Does that work?
And if we need Saturday, it would not start until 9 or later.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
So you're gonna change on the schedule that you proposed to us on the
Yeah.
calendar?
We'll update it and send it to you for a revised calendar. Okay, so we'll go the 9th and the 10th, which means then that your validation visit, which is how, if you're going to go talk to this might be all by Zoom, we don't know how things are going to be in April, would be somewhere in the week, might be the week of the 12th, but probably a little later.
I'm sorry. I get lost when you start talking and I still am entering what we just agreed on.
Okay, sorry.
I'm entering it. I just need another minute.
Don't worry, we're going to send you a calendar memo.
Oh,
We'll
okay.
send you the whole thing. We'll send you a
Okay.
revised copy.
Very good. Thank you.
I'll send you that. So the week you need to do some kind of validation visit. Right now, that's probably all Zoom. We don't know if it'll be any different by then or not. And that's where you talk with people from the district where the person currently is to learn about them and validate that what you've learned is true. That's usually a few hours, not very long. And the board can decide whether the whole board goes. If the whole board goes, it's a posted open meeting. If a couple board members go to represent, or it depends on how you want to do it, then it's not an open meeting. But it's just, you're going to need to think about after April 10th, when you might want to do a validation visit. And you'll have to just work that with the candidate that you select. Okay. And then your next regularly scheduled meeting would then probably be sometime in May for approval of the contract. And the contract must be approved at a regularly scheduled board meeting. So I don't know what your next meeting is. Chris, maybe you can tell me in May what the next meeting would be.
It's not showing up on my phone right now. Mary, do you have that, the May meeting?
May 6th and May 20th.
Thank you.
So there's a good chance that you, by May 6th, you would have the contract and everything resolved and be ready to approve on May 6th. Okay.
Okay.
Peggy, can you run that date again? I'm just looking. I just got some update from my my assistant on my calendar. Can you run that date, some of the date again, please?
Sure. So right now we're looking at for the board, March 16th will be the meeting when we do the review all the candidates.
Right.
And then the interviews will be April 9 and 10.
I apologize. I'm out of that week on the 9th and the 10th of April.
Okay.
I apologize. That's what I was worried about.
Are you gone the whole week, or?
I am most likely gone the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. But I can do much earlier than that or much later than that. But just not the 9th, 10th. Not April. Sorry.
Not April at all?
No, not April 9th and 10th.
You
Sorry.
can't do that, Brian. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that doesn't work. So, and Patty, you're not back until the 6th. Is that correct?
Monday's the 5th, right?
Yeah. Yes.
5th. I'm back the 5th.
Oh, I'm out the 3rd through the 5th.
This is always the tricky part.
Is the end of March is the possibility? Because I'm hearing that first 2 weeks of April is out for everybody.
Well, they need turnaround time after the.
Yeah.
vaccine.
If you don't, you're not going to select candidates till March 16th for interviews.
Different day of that week versus it being like a Friday and a Saturday.
Could we do half day? Or instead of a whole day, you know, we can do half
You can
day.
do, if you can do midweek, if you want to do Tuesday, Wednesday. I mean, that works for us.
Which dates
6th and the 7th
of?
I am,
April.
Well, I could do
I
that.
cannot, sorry.
Hey, Mr. Brian Doe.
Sorry, I apologize. Um, my staff would probably not be too happy if I disappear for that long, right before our
So that week doesn't work for you. then?
contract submittal.
So the week of the 5th doesn't work for you at all, Brian, then, right?
During the week, no. The weekends, it's possible, just during that, because we're submitting a major contract.
Okay. So Eric and Juan, weigh in with me a little bit. Do you think we're comfortable moving to the 16th? Are we going to be running into challenges with candidates?
Right. I think we're okay for the 16th for the candidates, but
16th of,
April.
oh, wait, yeah.
End of
Okay.
April? Is that too late?
Friday, Saturday, April 16, 17 is what we're talking about.
Right.
Okay, well, I'm good for those dates.
Yes,
I'm good for those days.
same.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm confused. This is where we're starting interviews?
Where you're going to interview candidates, right?
Okay, 16, 17 is what we're looking at now.
Yep.
April.
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 So so the board approve the contract will be a week later on?
I think you'd be approving it in May, so you'd still be okay if you do it on the 16th and 17th.
Okay,
Are there any legal barrier that we have to accept the contract by a certain date?
No, you just have to approve it at a regular meeting, that's all. You can't do it at a special meeting or anything else.
Understood.
Okay. Then,
Okay, good.
okay, then the following the meeting with open session will be in May, correct?
When you approve the contract, yes.
The contract in May, okay.
Now Lorena hasn't weighed in. Is Lorena okay?
With what specifically?
April 16th and 17th?
Oh, yeah,
interviews.
sorry. I thought I said, yeah, I'm sorry.
I didn't hear you. You might have, and I didn't hear you though.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks, Lorena.
Yes.
All right, so that's that calendar stuff.
Okay, Peggy,
Okay.
Peggy, would we want to consider relooking at the date for presenting the candidates from March 16th and pushing it back a little bit to give us more time for reference checking since it's a month apart?
Yeah, since we're not going to meet with them, we could do that. We could move that meeting with the board to the 20, instead of the 16th, we could move it to the following week.
You're talking March now,
Yeah.
March
What
23rd.
Juan is suggesting is that if we move, since we're not going to meet with, the interviews aren't going to be until the 16th and 17th of April, it would give us a better time for reference checking if we moved the meeting with you from the 16th to the following week
Of March.
of March. So
So
that would be the 23rd, 24th, 25th, somewhere in there.
all of those dates work for me right now.
I can do 23rd or 24th.
Let me see.
This is where we're choosing who to interview.
Correct, and that's a 4:30 type start.
So what date again, please?
23rd or 24th
23rd and 24th.
of March,
One of those two.
right?
20.
5 o'clock start time, or what would the start time, how
I think
long?
we said 4:30, right?
4:30 or 5, right? Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Okay, not 24th, I'm fine.
5?
Either way, whatever works for you.
Is that okay with your schedule, Vun?
The 24th? 20, both day, right?
Wednesday, the 24th.
Just one day.
One day, a 24, the 24 is fine, after 4:30.
Oh, yeah, if it's the 23rd, I was suggesting 5, but the day after the 24th, I can do 4:30 or 5.
Yeah, at 24, I can do 4:30.
Okay, let's go for the 24th at 4:30.
Let's check with Mr. Doe first before we enter it.
No, I'm good. I
Oh,
rarely have
fine.
these things, but what I do, I'm unable to change it.
Okay. All right, so
Thank
we're
you,
gonna
Rita.
move that one to the 23rd, 24th. Okay,
24.
24 at 4:30.
yes, and
Yeah.
again, we're gonna send you a revised schedule, so.
Okay. And what did you mention about 23rd? We strike
We
23rd.
struck it, yeah, we,
Okay.
so
Okay.
the 23rd.
I was confused anyway.
All right.
No worries.
This
You
part
are-
always gets confusing, trust me.
Do you all send calendar invites too, or is it just the sheet with like this
Well,
document?
we'll send you this, but when we get ready to schedule the actual stuff, Mary will send out invites for each of the sessions. Yeah. Okay. Are we good?
Peggy, so just to clarify, I lost connection for a little bit. March 24th at 4:30 is the candidate application review.
Correct.
And the interviews stayed at April 16th and 17th, starting at 9 a.m. on the first day. Thank you.
Correct. Thanks, Becky. All right. We good? So we did all the timeline. And now we want to talk about I'm just going to go back to the big list that we had from that, the discussion outline. Chris, if you can put that up, or Mary. I don't know who's putting things up. So we've got through all of that part. The contract, we're going to need a copy of the current contract. If Mary, you can send that to the three of us, that would be great. And then I think one of the things we probably need to do before we go any further is thinking about so the survey dates. So if we're going to, we want to put the survey up. Let's see, when do we want to put that up? We can put it up by the end of this week, by next Monday, maybe. Maybe next Monday is a good start.
Hey, Peggy, can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
So there's going to be engagement with stakeholders, and then there's a survey, like
There's
separate.
both.
Okay, what's the timeline of both?
So typically the input sessions, which are meetings with different groups, are over a couple of days. And right now we have them scheduled for around February 3rd and 4th. And we work to, once we decide who you want us to talk to, we can talk about the list of people. And that's like typically, Lorena, that's, you know, we meet with your union leadership, we meet with your cabinet, we meet with the principals, we meet with parent leadership groups, a variety of things, and we'll talk about those. And but in the meantime, there's also the survey, which you send out a blast notice, if you will, that says the survey's up. People can go online on through your website to link to do the survey. And at that point, the survey, we get the survey results. You don't get them. They link through your SIP, but they all come to us, and we'll do get all that input from the survey, and it's in 3 languages.
Okay, and this is where we're deciding who it goes to?
The survey goes to everybody. Anybody can do the survey, but the groups that we actually talk with online in the Zoom meetings, you'll help us determine those groups.
We won't help you determine the survey groups.
No, surveys, anybody. Anybody can fill out the survey.
It will go to anybody in your district who will have access to it.
But just the district,
Well,
not
community,
members, or?
You know, community members,
No?
anyone. Yes, community members will have access, business partners, they will all have access to it.
Okay, and you all will make sure that that goes out.
yeah, we ask you to put a link on your website so that your that message goes out to all your groups that you normally would notify of things.
Yeah.
And say, here's the survey link.
Yeah, and in addition to that, for an example, oftentimes we'll get the DLAC leaders at the focus group. We'll tell them to make sure they tell all of their family, friends, participants to go on to the online survey and complete it there. If we're meeting with, for example, people within other organizations, we typically get just the leaders, but we'll also encourage them to invite other people within their organizations to be a part of it.
And Lorena, we'll blast it out to my newsletter, which is 26,000 people. So it'll
Great.
get good coverage.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Super,
It-
thanks.
It's also an anonymous survey and people like that. And we find that it's in this virtual world, we're getting a lot of responses. People prefer to provide the input via the survey because they can't come to the sessions or whatever. So it's a very popular tool and good results.
Peggy, Trustee Cortese has her hand up.
Thank you. So you're going to meet with the stakeholders first. Do the stakeholders have input into the survey questions, or what you how
No.
the survey is crafted?
Surveys, you've been given a sample of the survey already. We'll talk a little bit about that later.
Okay.
Well, actually, you know what, I don't know if we want to pull that up now. I'm open. I think this survey is in 3 languages and Becky and Mary have already worked that out. And it asks kind of 3 basic areas. First of all, we ask everybody to tell us who they represent, whether they're a parent, a staff member, a community member, a business part, whatever. There's a whole bunch of lists they can check. Then we ask them 3 kind of basic things. What are the characteristics, qualities, experiences they want in the new superintendent? What do they see as the district's strengths? And then third, what do they see as the district's challenges? And from that, we get all kinds of data, and it's a little like as my friend of ours says, it's like your own self-study that you would do for WASC. So you get a lot of feedback and on all those areas, and we provide you all of those survey results.
So those are all open-ended questions then. You're not asking any on a scale of 1 to 5 how
No.
important.
Well, there's
is
some
blah, blah.
ranking. We'll show you that. There's
Okay.
one segment that's ranking.
Okay.
So I don't know. We want to put the survey up for a minute. See where we go. There we go. Thank you. So again, we haven't put the dates of the start, but this is just kind of what they asked them to do. There's questions. And then the first part is they tell us who they are. You know, they could be multiple things. They could be a parent and a staff member, obviously. So they can check any of those. And then there's also an other, if there's some other, you know, they're a grandparent and they don't think they fit in some category. Then these are the things they'll start filling out. What do you see as a strength? What do you see as the major challenges? And what is important for our next superintendent? No, go back to the top a little bit, that where 1 is. That's it. Okay. So I'm sorry, go ahead down. And then any other qualities and characteristics they think are important for the superintendent to possess, they just start filling it in. And it becomes rather long. You'll get a lot more stuff to read than you probably want to read, but that's okay. And then we do ask them to rank in several areas. First is the professional experiences that they believe are most important. Whether they've been in California, they've been in a cabinet level position. That's at the professional characteristics and experiences. Okay, so they're ranking there. It's a little off on this, I can see, but that's okay. It will. And then the next area is the professional leadership characteristics around being a leader that they think. Strong instructional leader, bringing the community together, high priority and safe environments. Those kinds of things are those kind of leadership qualities that are particularly important. We ask them to rank those. You're going to get bar graphs showing all this, by the way, what people see as the most important. And then the next one is the personal characteristics that they have. They're empathetic, they're equity-minded, consensus builder, visible, etc. And again, we ask them to rank those on top of giving all the qualities and characteristics they want.
So we will see all of this ranked data sort of aggregated into bar graphs and such.
Right.
Will we get to see the raw data from the narrative questions?
Yes, absolutely, all of it.
Okay, great.
All of it. Yeah, you'll read all of it. You'll have multiple pages to read. Like a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So that's kind of the survey piece. We've just found it to be a really successful tool. It's in 3 languages. People can access it from, you know, their living room at home or wherever they want to. And it seems to get, and again, this is also all your students can respond to the survey as well.
What if we have feedback for the survey? Is that
Sure.
right now?
Sure.
Okay. So let me see my notes here. All right. I think something that I would like to see pop out here is something along the humility, the listening.
Okay, so that would probably be under those personal, or is it number 8, I think. Following personal characteristics.
Yeah. I think that's important.
So good listener. What was the other one, Lorena?
Humility.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they go hand in hand. Sorry, my little guy in the background.
I'm going to go back up to empathetic. I think that was the first one. Do you want, is empathetic and a good listener together? Do you want to try and combine that, or?
I think we can. I think empathetic is really important to have as well. Yeah.
Well, and then want to add the other one, right?
Yeah, the humility piece, humble. And I guess you named this piece something along maintaining and moving academic achievement. Where is that?
That's in the, I think it's under there, under the professional.
Okay, that.
Strong instructional leader who will maintain and improve the student achievement gains made in the district.
Yeah, I was like going back and forth, and maybe this is fine, but I was just thinking about someone like someone that's going to bring a community together towards strong vision of student achievement that will like actually make significant progress. But I don't know if others feel like that.
Well, you know, you can probably put that when you start doing your input, we'll have that as well.
Okay. And then there was something else, understands and is committed to our concept, our equitable communities, the way we orient. I think it's taken a lot of work for us to get there, and I would want to make sure that, you know, it would be important for someone to be well in tune with that. And also something that I've heard from community members is the importance of understanding the East Side community.
Well, let's put that in your, that'll probably be in your position description, Lorena.
Okay.
I think some of this is just really for them to give their thoughts, and they might add those things, but your position description can reflect that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, so we'll get scheduled to put this survey up probably next week, starting sometime next week. Okay, we'll work with Mary to get that done. So now we need to go through the groups you want us to give input on, get input from, excuse me. And so, where are we? I think we have a potential list, but let me talk you through, maybe, I don't know, I'll let Eric or Juan talk for a while. I've been talking too long. So Eric or Juan, you want to take that one for a little bit?
Sure. Stakeholder groups are important, that you get a variety and as broad as possible. I'm going to start listing off a few, and if you want to just kind of nod as I move along as examples. Some of them are pretty standard, and as I go through the standard list, when I'm done, we'll open it up to specific groups that you're interested in. So obviously you want to get input from parents. You want to get input from teachers. You want to get input from parents, teachers, classified staff, students, district office classified, confidential staff in the district office. You want to get, you have directors. You want to get input from those, principals, school site leaders, assistant principals.
There was a list where you all offered a list of folks, right? Can we pull
Yeah.
that up? I feel like I saw that somewhere.
Becky, do you have that list handy? We can work off that list.
Mhm. And one of the most important aspects of this process is for the district to reach out to those communities and those voices who have not been heard in the past. I think that's really a time. And so really to stop and reflect upon who are the groups who we don't hear much from, or their voice isn't quite as amplified as some of the other people within the community, and making sure that we do that. Also being able to touch bases with some of the influencers, whether they're from the faith-based community, from the political community, et cetera, and making sure that they're a part of this process. And because it really makes it a richer process, and you get a richer position profile when you're including all of the members of the community versus not only the standard group that we would typically ask to be a part of the process.
I agree with you, Eric. And actually, something that I was going to say is, if we can make sure that the responses are representative of the community that we serve, right? Oftentimes, our largest communities or largest groups don't give input for whatever reason. So it might take twice as long, 3 times as long to get input. So maybe y'all can insert that in the plan, to plan for certain subgroups to respond, because I think it's important not just to have parents, but we have a big Latino, big Vietnamese, Asian population. Want to make sure those are all represented. Our student groups too, like the same thing, the ethnic backgrounds, students with disability, like everything. If we can.
Why don't we open it up to you as the board to give us specific names of groups within the groups that you're beginning to describe? Can you give us some groups?
So school site councils tend to be an integrated spectrum
Okay.
of stakeholders at a school site that includes parents and staff and, you know, in other influencers we have, but school site councils tend to be a strong nucleus of people that want to hear from. School site councils, yeah.
Other groups?
I would love to be able to put the list up, but I haven't been given screen sharing rights. But I do have a list that I can share.
Omar, would you take care of the sharing the host, please? And I will stop sharing. Omar, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. It should be available to whoever needs to share at this point.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, host disabled.
And Becky should be able to get that up there.
Go ahead and give it a try. There it is.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go through this list one at a time, and then we can add, we were beginning to add school site council. So
the size needs to be expanded a little.
That's too small, huh?
Okay.
Okay, beginning with the superintendent, then we go on to cabinet and executive management. Any leadership teams that you may have?
Is that ESTA and CSEA? But you have classified staff, the certificate staff, number 7 and 8.
Classified and certificated staff. Okay, if you look at number 5, you have classified district office also, CSEA. And right below that, you have confidential employees in the district office. You go to the Teachers Association, your association leaderhead, their executive board for teachers. And the same thing for CSEA, your executive board classified separate. We okay so far, 1 through 10?
Yeah, so Juan, our leadership group is what I call cabinet, and that is all the directors, the principals, and the presidents of the union.
Okay, well, typically we like to have the presidents of the unions separate.
No, that's fine, but I'm just trying to define leadership team for you so you understand what that means.
Okay.
So we might not do the leadership team as a separate item because you've got different kinds of leadership teams,
Right.
right? So maybe we, just stay with cabinet, take off leadership team and go to the other groups like that. But we'll want to meet with the principals separately, the union leadership separately, that kind of
Yep.
thing.
Right. Okay. Then we would go to your students. Could be student leadership groups. It could be random students that are selected.
Sorry, before we go there, I know we had just said about leadership team. Can we go up there? And we said we'd stick with cabinet, but does cabinet include directors? Like, yes, it does.
It does.
Okay, great. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that different departments were included in there. Great.
Okay, typically we'll divide the cabinet and do them separate from the director. So that's two different groups.
Your assistant superintendents or associate supes usually is a separate group than your from the directors typically.
Right.
Yeah, I think if you just change leadership team to directors, you'll be fine.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Chris.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going back to 11. High school students, typically leadership groups. Student council could be, it could be random students that are selected by some of your principals. So it could be a combination of different types of student groups.
We have a student governing board.
Okay.
And I would like them involved in not only the process, but also identifying other student groups.
Okay. And definitely your student board rep.
Bruce,
Yes.
also, he's our student governing board representative here. He wrote a comment. Bruce, would you like to give voice to your comment on the chat?
Yeah, thank you for that. So this kind of pertains to 11 and 14. So I was curious if cultural/ethnic clubs are also included, because they are a diverse group that should also contribute to the number of stakeholders that should be questioned.
Comment.
Any other groups that you might suggest that we contact? Student group?
Californians for Justice.
So Bruce, as a student board rep, maybe you can tell us, give us some groups. They can all be invited. They also can do the online survey, of course, but if there are specific groups that you think would be important, maybe you could get those names, those group names to to Dr. Funk.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to make a mention, there are Black student unions on campuses. There are Latino student unions, same for Vietnamese student associations.
Great, thanks.
Okay.
I also mentioned Californians for Justice. I don't know if y'all captured that. That's a student group as well.
Oh, yeah, that's a key one.
Yeah, absolutely agree with member Lorena. Parent committee leaders, is different, like Vietnamese or Latino parents association?
You could be very specific about people that we would want to invite. You could also, we could also select groups that have organizations already. There may be organizations from the Vietnamese community. There may be organizations from the Latino community that we could identify and contact, so that we could contact and get representation from a variety of your different community leaders.
Okay, yeah, that should be good. Thank
Okay,
you.
are you able to name some of those groups? Or can you provide those names to Dr. Funk?
Yeah, I can do it.
I can. Sorry, Van, I cut you off. Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, for Latino, I don't know, but on the Vietnamese side, I do know.
Okay.
So I can provide this list to Superintendent Funk, and he can share that with you. Yeah, Lorena, go ahead.
Yeah, Somos Mayfair is one organization that I know. I also wonder, I don't know how active our Latino parents are in the district. I know at some point they would gather, but I don't know if that's still happening, especially in the time of COVID. So I wonder if the Latino parent group, the district-wide group is not active, if we can engage with some principals so that they can let us know of maybe some parent leaders of that background that could, share some thoughts and give feedback.
Okay, what we can do, and we've done it in another district, is we can, if we get the list of all of your principals, we can ask via email from all of your principals to identify at least 2 Latino leaders with their schools, and then we could group all those together and get input from that group all at once.
I think the best way to do this would be for Mary to have this list, which she already does, take it and customize it to fit the specific names in your districts. These are similar in style, but may not be named exactly as your district refers to them. So if she could find the parallels, customize this list, send it to you, and then you let her know what she needs to add to this group, that would really help her put the schedule together.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so then we would move on to service clubs. Are there particular service clubs that you'd like us to invite? There's a list, a partial list there with Rotary, Kiwanis, Lions. Are there major service clubs in your district that you'd like to identify?
I think that's fine. With Rotary and Kiwanis.
Okay. Rotary, Kiwanis, and Lions.
Bruce at the UNICEF.
Okay.
Thank you, Bruce.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, your ELAC and DLAC are pretty standard. Any questions about that?
We have an African-American student, Chris, what's the acronym for the parent group?
AASA, African American Student Advocates.
Yes, that's another
Student group.
important parent group. You know, the NAACP has an education committee also. That would be probably a good group for me to reach out to.
Okay, NAACP.
Yeah, particularly their education committee.
That reminded me, there's two more. There's a Black Kitchen Cabinet, and then there's La Raza Roundtable.
Yes, both excellent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Black Kitchen Cabinet is very focused on education. Actually, so is La Raza.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a Vietnamese educator and parents.
VIPA, right?
Yeah. VIPA.
Yeah.
Okay, as you're mentioning these groups, make sure you make a note to yourself to send these names to Mary so that we can organize them in a way that they can be grouped together or contacted so that we get all of your input correct. So list them now, but make sure you get the names that you're listing to Mary. Okay, La Raza Roundtable. Okay. Thank you for putting that they'll require a translator because that's important for us. If there's a group that needs translation in Spanish, for example, I can take that group.
Dr. Garza, just a quick question from Mary's standpoint. You have 2 days down for this process. How long does each session last? Because I think right now, looking at this list, it's way more than 2 days.
What's going to happen there, Superintendent Funk, is we're going to take the groups, and then we're going to have, like, say we have a start time of 8:30, for example, with across the board on both days. At 8:30, we'll have 3 groups growing at the same time.
Oh, great.
Each one of us, Chris, will take a session, and they're about a half an hour at the most.
Yes.
Excellent.
And they're going to be asked the same 3 questions that the board will be asked. And that is, what are the characteristics they'd like to see the next superintendent? What are the strengths of the district? And then what are the challenges of the district?
Right.
Okay.
So we should be able to cover it in 2 days without any problems. So then we have continuing with the groups, the city council members, city managers, city police chief, fire chief, pretty standard. Any questions with that?
If you're getting into that level, there are some strong neighborhood associations that might be worth reaching out to. For example, in Evergreen, there's the District 8 Community Roundtable. I know in Berryessa, there's the Bay Area Citizens Advisory Council, I think it's called.
Yeah.
District 5 United, maybe. It's the name of that other one in that Allen Rock area. Oh, Allen Rock has one. Forgetting their name, but I think each city council has a coalition of neighborhood groups that would be. Oh, I see you have neighborhood associations on there. I don't know if you just added those because I said that, but anyway, I can provide more detail on that.
All right, fantastic.
When we say city council members, we're talking about those whose council districts are within the jurisdiction of the east side, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, Chamber of Commerce. Then, do you have more than one Chamber of Commerce in your jurisdiction within the district?
Actually, our current organization, which renamed itself the Silicon Valley Organization, is currently, what's the word? They've suspended operations and possibly are going to resurrect in some incarnated form due to a very public scandal that took the organization to the mat. And so it's an interesting and oddity right now.
Okay, well,
We have several ethnic chambers, though.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we have.
Hispanic chamber, African American chamber, Vietnamese chamber. Yeah.
Okay, so we have 3 there.
Mhm.
Great. What are your parent associations at the schools called? Do you have parent-teacher clubs? What do you, PTAs? What do you have at your school sites?
We really don't have a PTA program in the district. We have one school, Silver Creek, which is probably the largest, and then another one at Evergreen. Otherwise, it's really the athletic boosters, band boosters that are the largest.
Okay.
Okay, and they're listed under 24, the booster groups, athletic and band boosters from all of the schools, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Any foundations?
We do.
You have a list of them that you can provide, Mary, or?
Well, we have the District Education Foundation, and then we have the Silicon Valley Education Foundation that facilitates the Eastside Alliance.
Okay. We've got them both listed there. Are you interested in us contacting neighboring district superintendents for their input on what they'd like to see in the next superintendent there? Qualities, characteristics, the same types of questions.
I was just going to say through the Silicon Valley Education Foundation, the Eastside Alliance, I think that'll be important because we play a key role in that organization as a high school feeder district. So we can get some sort of input through the Eastside Alliance.
That'd be on number 26 is the Eastside Alliance.
Okay. Do you have any business partners?
Not that I know of.
All right, let's go back to 27. Are you interested in us getting input from neighboring district superintendents?
That is the Eastside Alliance.
Okay.
It's made up of the 7 feeder districts.
Okay, then we'll combine that.
All right.
We do have other neighboring school districts, but I'm not sure their feedback would necessarily be that relevant.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's Sounds Like Unified, there's Milpitas Unified,
Mhm.
but I'm not sure. I think the input from the superintendents from the East Side Alliance is way more important.
Yeah, I would agree, Patty. Absolutely.
Okay, this is a very good list. I just want to remind you that make sure you get any specific names or that may not be on this list that were mentioned to Mary, and we'll work off of this list. If tomorrow morning you wake up and think of another group or two that you'd like to make sure gets contacted, please let Mary know so that she can put that group on the list.
And someone will get this list out to us, or do we need to recreate it with Mary?
No, Mary has it. And
Okay.
She'll send it out.
Okay, perfect.
And you may want to look at also if there are any other faith-based groups that you want to include in that as well, because sometimes that is a voice for those who are the voiceless, if you will.
I just thought of one more. Yes, Amigos de Guadalupe.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. No, you asked a question about business partners, but which we didn't really come up with any, but how about nonprofit partners?
Silicon Valley nonprofit, whatever they're called. It's a coalition of nonprofits.
Sure, and we have like all of the nonprofits that we work with through schooling services, like Bill Wilson Center and you know, Allen Rock Counseling Center. There's a lot of groups like that. Conexion will be CONXION. It's the Spanish word. Yeah.
But they still abbreviate as CTC, don't they?
Not so much anymore.
Not so much.
Mm-mm.
Any other nonprofits that you can think of?
The Job Corps youth organization, whatever they're called.
That's a charter, but I guess, yeah.
Now, is it Conservation Corp? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Grail Family Services. What about our community colleges? Like
I'm starting to feel overwhelmed by this list.
I mean, they're asking, we're giving.
So the community, Lorena, the community college is tied to the East Side Alliance. They are a partner there.
That's good.
Got it.
Oh, what about Metro Ed? We're looking for perspectives. Is that what we're looking for here?
Input on answering those same three questions that we'll be asking you and all of these.
I mean, Metro Ed, we're part of a joint powers agreement with 5 other districts, six districts in a joint powers agreement for career technical education. They're definitely in the ecosystem of the East Side. You know.
Okay.
And I'm on the board of Work to Future. They also support our students to find a job. So I don't know, it's also nonprofit. Just a thought.
This is going to be interesting. It's like laying the groundwork for a strategic planning process beyond an interview, beyond interviews.
Well, you know, as a large school district that you are, I think the more you offer out to all of these different groups to provide input, I think they value that and they'll respect you for that and they'll appreciate their opportunity to provide input. It's very important.
I have another one. Los Compadres Network.
Okay.
And it may be that in some cases we'll be able to combine some groups, like inviting a couple of different groups together that have some similar kinds of interests. So, so we'll work with that with Mary to make that make sense.
And if we can think any other organization, then we can
Absolutely.
provide the list to
Yep.
Mary. Yes.
Yep.
We have one central list that we'll work off of.
And what is the timeline for you to, complete the list?
We probably should try and have it done by early next week. So if we're going to schedule for the following week, we probably need to have names by Tuesday latest, groups Tuesday latest. And we can start from this, but.
Mhm. Because it is a courtesy, you want to give them ample time for the invitation to be able to get their input.
Absolutely.
And to arrange their schedule so they can be valuable partners in the process. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
So up to Tuesday would be good. And then we'll keep working on sending out or organizing these groups so we can get a schedule together.
Can we do like a little asterisk here of what I said earlier? Just really making sure that the voices throughout the district representation is present across all our different groups and our communities. Like, sure, we named some of them, but just really want to make sure that that is true.
Okay.
Got it.
And I think you've got a good representation. Van was going to get us a list of the groups from the Vietnamese community, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
She pronounces it Von.
One.
Von.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Manuel.
All right, so our next job is the big one. So it's 7:20, and we need now to move into the qualities, characteristics, background, strengths, and challenges that we want to get together as our master list. I don't know, Juan or Eric, who's taking the notes on this one?
I'm facilitating.
Okay, and Juan's taking notes?
Yes.
Perfect, and I don't have to do it for a while. So really right now for the whole group, it's really a matter of those big items, which is your qualities, characters. So I'm gonna let Eric and Juan take over.
Yes, and so what we're going to be asking, as Peggy said, is for you to answer those 3 questions. And let me maybe give you a little context. When you're looking at the next superintendent, we want you to look forward, to be forward thinking. You may want to look back and see some of the great qualities of the current and other superintendents, but you want to look forward to get a sense of, if we were to dream and identify, here are the major qualities we would like for our next superintendent to have, that's what we want to hear from you. In addition to that, and the second prompt is, tell us the strengths of the district. This is your opportunity to brag about your district. You want to brag so that candidates can look at the strengths and say, boy, this is a district I sure would love to come and work for. And then we'll look at the challenges, and we want you to be upfront about that with the challenges. One of the things we've not mentioned to you is that this is an important document, as was once stated earlier, about having a strategic plan and so on. It'll give you an idea of what your community is thinking about the district as well as the new superintendent. And we oftentimes would ask you to use this document to give to the person who you've identified as your next superintendent, so they get a very good idea of, here are the strengths of the district, but here are also some of the challenges that they're going to be facing along the way. We'll take all of this documentation from the board as well as all of the community stakeholders that we've talked about. And with that, we will craft the position profile. The position profile will list the characteristics that we've identified from both the online survey and from the focus groups that we've had. We'll look for themes. And what are the major themes that came out of the strengths that the community said they wanted to see in the next superintendent? What are the strengths of the district? And again, what are the challenges? So that being said, we're going to move, first of all.
You want to put that on the screen?
Yes. You want to move it up a little bit?
Whatever the 3 things
on here.
There we go. Yeah.
Number 11. Number 11.
Yeah, it's there right now. Thank you so much for asking it, or clarifying that. So again, desired qualities, characteristics, and experiential background. And we basically, in this section, just have you popcorn it out. You don't have to give a lot of explanation unless you choose to, but just each of the members just go around and talk about, here are some of the qualities and characteristics and experiences that I want to see in our next superintendent.
Oh, I can't
That's-
resist starting out with tongue in cheek. That would be the patience of Job, the wisdom of Solomon, and walking on water. Like,
Got it.
Trustee Herrera, believe it or not, when we're done, that's exactly what you're going to be asking for by looking at that list.
yeah.
I would say commitment to equity and cultural competency.
Okay. All right. Others?
I have
Strong. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I want my other board colleagues to speak because I'm very aware that I've been speaking a lot, so I'll stay till the end.
Okay.
I would say a track record for a demonstrated growth in student achievement.
Okay.
I think we want to look into the characteristics or quality of superintendent to be creative,
Okay.
and also look into of the diversity, you know, the culture. I mean, sensitivity, you know, for the culture of the district and the diversity of the district. Yeah, I think that's something that really based on the experience or, you know, the background that they went to our district.
Good. Good stuff. Others?
An ability to convert conflict to consensus. And I'm not just saying build consensus, I mean, in the face of conflict, convert it to consensus.
Okay.
I was going to sort of similarly add a willingness to have courageous conversations or difficult conversations. Collaboration too, just in general.
Got it. Brian, what do you have to say? I haven't heard from you in a while.
I love what my colleagues are saying. I certainly appreciate some of that. Certainly the ability to get things done, in spite of conflicts, how to mitigate conflicts, but to move forward and get things done despite the difference in opinion. And as well as you seek consensus, you also wanted to get things done and move the district forward. I think some of my colleagues had mentioned about the diversities. Those are important skills. And I think on that note, what I'm looking for is someone who help bridge the gap, the educational inequity that we are experiencing, not on this district, but also in our county and in our state.
Good. Good.
An inner strength and ability to take, for lack of a better phrase, take blows, you know, from the various, you know, key people and not be thrown off course.
Strong backbone.
Well, that's one way of putting it, a backbone, but it's not just a backbone, it's being able to absorb blows without, you know, somehow having that throw you off center.
Okay.
Right. There's
Another
a lot
thing,
of gratuitous, you know, stuff that happens.
another thing I would just sum up by saying, you know, keeps the trains on time. You know, just can
Operational.
keep the organization running. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
The train running. Yes.
We're ready.
So,
Lorena? Oh, go ahead.
Manuel, do you want to say one last thing before I start?
yes.
Go ahead.
Say, you know, making a distinction between executive management and strategic leadership, which aren't necessarily the same, because you can be very effective at executive management and not as effective at strategic leadership, which is both internal, external, environmental, past, present, and future.
Good.
Okay. Our district is doing so many great things and is very rich in so many ways. And yet at the same time, there's a lot of growth, right? That is necessary and that is possible. I would want our next leader to start, and when they think about our district, automatically look at our district from an asset-based perspective and think about ways to grow from that lens versus from a deficit lens. And oh, there's this gap, there's that gap. I think that matters how they perceive and work with our community and our district. So that's one. One that can fulfill the promise to our students, right? That they're going to do everything they can and work with everyone so that we all have what we need to ensure that our students are best equipped to excel in high school and beyond. Someone that understands a community, our Eastside community. It's multi-layered, it's complex, and it's beautiful. Someone that can navigate multiple stakeholders while pushing the work forward and remembering our promise to our kids. An innovator, someone who thinks outside of the box and can bring others with them in that thinking. Leader that can be interpreted in many different ways. Equity, Patty spoke to this a little bit, but I think our district has done a lot of work around equity and equitable communities, someone who would be committed to continuing that work and moving it forward, along with our district staff and everyone else in the district. Someone who is humble, right? Comes in, yes, I'm innovative, yes, I'm smart, yes, I have all these qualities, but I'm also an authentic listener. I'm coming in with humility, knowing that I have a lot to learn and I can learn no matter how much experience I have, and is authentic in the way that they show up and the way that they engage with others. That matters, right? That's going to be the foundation of building relationships with people. And operates with integrity at all times, especially in the most difficult of times. And lastly is a conscious leader.
Say more about that.
Conscious leader?
Yeah, say more about the conscious leader.
I'm starting to read this book about conscious leadership. And so that's where this is coming from, and it's operating from above the line and under the line. There's a concept, and I still fully haven't mastered it, but it's when you're operating above the line, it's operating as your best self to be the most productive, to be the most fruitful, and it's the best experience for everyone around you, including yourself. But it really is centered around just consciousness so that you can get yourself and others to be at their best selves at any given moment, even when things are even when we're in the roughest of moments, if you will, like you're conscious. And so that allows you to move forward in a good way, in a positive way that feels good for everyone around you.
So I'd like to offer a definition also of conscious leadership. So for me, someone who's conscious personally or professionally is aware of their own triggers, their own internal work that they are working on or needing to work on. Everybody has stuff to work on for how they show up to themselves and to others. And being conscious is to be aware of that and to take some responsibility for how you're bringing yourself into the workplace and into interactions. And conscious is also to have some sense of the subtle dynamics, not just the out front or surface dynamics or what have you, but you have some understanding of human nature and some of the subtle dynamics that can be at play. And without, it's another way of saying emotional intelligence, but being conscious, it goes even beyond emotional intelligence. It doesn't work when someone's just smart, but isn't conscious and doesn't have a high degree of emotional intelligence as part of being conscious.
Good, good.
To continue along that theme, we have made incredible strides these last several years around promoting mindfulness throughout the organization. So someone who practices and also values that for our staff and our students. I also want to add someone who has a growth mindset, him or herself. So this is someone who models lifelong learning, not just talks about it, but actually practices it. So is willing to get in there. And, earlier Julio Pardo mentioned some work that we did as a district earlier, and the district also has all gone through implicit bias training. So I would want to see our next leader to be completely on board with those kind of things and willingness to get in there and learn and practice and model that for others.
Good. Okay.
I want to offer a quality that can be misinterpreted, and not necessarily viewed as positive, but I do appreciate people who have a political adeptness, who can read political dynamics, and who can not be caught in in those cross currents, where they can, hopefully, in addition to integrity and consciousness and all the other good things that we want, that it helps to have some political some political adeptness. And the larger the organization, and we're a large organization, the more important it becomes to really be able to read the political chessboard and not be caught unawares or pushed into corners unnecessarily or triggered unnecessarily. Yeah.
Okay.
One thing that just came to mind is visible, right? Is visible. Our district is large. I think it's important. It matters to be seen, for people to know you, to engage with you, to be accessible. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Other thoughts? Student board member, what do you have to say? What would you like, Brian? I'm sorry.
Bruce.
I agree with everything everyone said previously. I think it kind of boils down to what the students can see, like visibly, what the students can see physically. Yeah, if the superintendent is able to, or the candidates are able to do that, then I think it would encourage more people, like more students to participate.
Okay. Thanks, Bruce.
Eric, can we put on to be a good listener?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, and I really want to see someone has some caring characteristic, because if they care, for others, they will have something, when inside, in depth, so look into different angle of the issue, when they make a decision.
Good, good, excellent.
Another way of adding to the political comment I made was being able to work not just with the designated leaders, but with the informal leaders, to actually be able to read who are the opinion leaders, even though they don't have the titles or what have you, but people listen to them, and if you're going to move on something and you don't have, your key influencers, whether they have formal titles or not, you're missing a good bit of your strategy. You got to know who your informal leaders are as well.
No question about that. I'm
How
going to
proactive.
Proactive? Okay, good. Good. I'm going to shift you to the district's strengths, and that does not mean that if something pops into your mind for a characteristic, we don't throw it back in there. One of the most interesting things about when we do this exercise with boards and communities, oftentimes a strength can also be an opportunity as well. And so you may see things that are on both lists, and that's absolutely accurate and the way it should be. But here's your chance to really brag about the East Side district. So tell us, what are the great qualities, the great things you're doing in East Side?
I think that our outgoing superintendent has really positioned this district with extraordinary achievement-oriented initiatives. And that is a big part of his legacy. But we are moving now on multiple fronts and in a systematic way to key in on the achievement opportunity, the achievement gap and achievement, what's the other one called? Achievement.
Opportunity gap.
Yeah, the opportunity gap, yeah. So yeah, I'm really proud of that. And whoever's coming in is going to be building on a foundation that has been established here that's very strong.
Yeah, we have an awesome CTE program work that Tim Nguyen has done. We went from like 10 different careers, so like 22 in the last few years under Chris's leadership. We've gotten multiple grants. We support feeder districts with that too, to make sure that there's like CTE feeder into East Side. So more access to not just our high school students, but our middle school students. We have East Side Access. There is no other district around who is doing free internet infrastructure for the district as a whole. We're covering about 70% of our district, free Wi-Fi for our community. It's not just our students, but it's our community members as well. And the feeder districts benefit from this. And so we've got a lot of schools already wired, and fingers crossed that's going to be done this year. So that's, especially with COVID and there being a huge need for that, that's big to be in our East Side community. We have the MTSS work that is happening under instruction. It's really thinking about all of our gaps at the root and really addressing it with starting of how do we support with teacher practices, school-wide practices, programs. Everything fits into this model, right? That our schools are being trained around, which is amazing. And so all of our schools are fully rolled out with that as well. What else are we doing? We have all of our employees, close to 100%, have gone through the implicit bias training. There is A through G curriculum. Oh my gosh, I know there's more things, but those are just some things that that come to mind right now.
I want to put a PS on her comment about career technical education. She was referring to the district programs, but we're also part of a joint powers agreement with 5 other districts, a 6-member JPA for career technical education called Metro Ed. Traditionally called Metro Ed, it's technically now Silicon Valley Career Technical Education. But it is a crown jewel in the region, and it's part of the assets of this district.
Good.
We have social workers at each and every one of our sites, and we also have interns, right? So while it's not enough for our students in our community, like you can be guaranteed that at all of our sites. Yeah. We have a really cool program called College Connect. I think that's what it's called at YB, where there is collaboration between Franklin McKinley, East Side, and a JC. I want to say we also have the East Side Promise.
Right.
So that's like we've been leading.
Is it Spartan Promise?
Spartan.
Yeah, Spartan Promise.
It's Spartan Promise.
Right. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Like I want to name everything East Side Promise. Spartan Promise.
I think there is an East Side Promise too with the community colleges. And then Spartan Promise is with San Jose State. Chris could clarify that.
Okay.
I thought of another characteristic for the first question, but I can get to that whenever we get back.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, that is, I lean pretty strongly towards distributed leadership style versus centralized leadership versus hierarchical leadership.
Okay.
I think it takes another level of development and skill and leadership to be able to allowed the locus to rest in different parts of the organization and for you to kind of be more of a partner and problem solver as opposed to a kind of a hierarchical dynamic where people are trained to look for your cues, you know,
Right.
and to see whether they can, you know, step this way or not. I just have a lot of faith that when you drop levels of responsibility, essentially making people superintendent for their portfolio, that you can really unleash a lot of talent and another level of talent and creativity and even genius in the organization.
Other strengths?
Sure. You know, in general, I would say the diversity of this district is a strength overall. And then leveraging on some of the things that my colleagues said, several years ago, voters passed a tech bond, which means that we have up-to-date technology for all of our students. We were actually better prepared to go to distance learning than any other district in the county, I think. We were able to provide every single student who needed a laptop with a laptop. And a lot of districts didn't have that. And then, you know, to go along with the MTSS and all of the other things that Lorena was talking about, our administration under the superintendent's lead and guidance created something we call the equitable community statement. And I just think it's brilliant.
Okay, good.
I want to add that I like to see a good communication, also interpersonal skill and strategic thinking.
Okay.
Also, we have a vision to bring our districts to the next level, and also be ethical or integrity.
Okay, those are great qualities. Great
Yes.
qualities.
Our district is really good with data.
Okay, good.
Really good. And so we understand where our district is, and we have some ideas as to why, right? And so a lot of the work that we build and we do is around that. And so we're super transparent, and we talk about it all the time in reference as to why we do what we do and where the opportunities are.
Good. Okay, I'm going to shift you to the challenges now. Again, just as in the other categories, if you think of other strengths or other characteristics, feel free to jump in that as well. So what are the challenges that a new superintendent would be facing coming into Eastside?
Balance the budget.
Balance the budget.
Find other revenue to subsidize, you know, the deficit, or be creative. You know, when we get into the deficit, you know, situation, instead of lay off, you know, our staff or our teachers.
Good. Other challenges?
We have the district administration a couple years identified a very fascinating statistic, and they recognize that students who start with us the first day of their freshman year and stay with us through their completing their high school, 95% or better of them graduate across all demographics. We have a large population, however, we call that our cohort, our local cohort. Those students are doing great. The students that move from one or more schools, those students struggle. And we have a number of them for a number of reasons. You know, poverty, immigration, there's just a lot of reasons. You know, maybe even students have individual challenges or conflicts, and that causes them to move. But that moving schools we've identified is a huge challenge in for them, and meeting that challenge, we will be looking to our next superintendent to help us continue the work we've started working with that group.
Other challenges?
Well, I've witnessed over the years that most administrators often, especially those who come into our district from outside, but often interpret that our bargaining units, and particularly our teachers union, are experienced as quite muscular or confrontive or in some way difficult. And that I'm describing what I witness as a way that they're looked at, or the way that they're talked about, or how they're experienced, or how I see them interact, that somehow, these folks have been in our district 20, 30 years or more, and they're accustomed to having a voice even in the preliminary stages of something that's developing, and will often do whatever it takes to deal themselves into the process. And it doesn't necessarily always agree with an administrator's sense of how to proceed. And then you start with some tensions, and you start with some issues, and there it goes. One administrator who departed a few years ago, I asked him, how was it for him? And, he said that, he told me that he was surprised at the degree to which the board gave so much credence and attention to particularly the teachers union. He was just surprised, that in other districts he'd worked, the administration exerted its will and let the union members squawk all they wanted, And over here, the board tends to find a way to work with even difficult, feelings that arise in the leadership, stakeholder leadership, and it always becomes a factor for our administrators how much they have to accommodate not just the stakeholders but the board in that dynamic. So it is a challenge, I think, for the typical administrator.
Other challenges?
I would say these are opportunities. That's how I'd like to frame it. I think, I mean,
I laugh, Lorena, because I just wrote an article for a retired, the retired AXA group, and that was exactly the title. It's called the Challenge, and that is not to use the word challenge. So thank you. We're on the same page.
Yeah. As I was thinking about this, I was like, look, if someone can, take this and go with it, this is a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
And it changes the way that you approach whatever's in front of you. So
it does.
So I think it's Eastside is doing so many great things. So many great things. And I think an opportunity is going to be like not to lose the momentum and support the staff and the community to continue doing the work, right? And continue excelling and even accelerating that if possible. I don't know that that's possible, but that's one thing. It's acknowledging, that our district is huge and we're doing a lot of great things. Despite us doing a number of things, there are still some significant gaps within some of our student populations, right? These gaps have existed for a long, long, long time. And so what does that mean? Like what will be the opportunity there? Like figuring that out. I don't know. I'd love to hear how somebody thinks about that. This new leader. And then the Eastside Alliance. While we've done a lot of great work with the Eastside Alliance, I don't think we've maxed out the potential, right? There's a lot more that we can do there. And that's all of our feeder districts. I think if we can take that to another level, a lot of gaps that our students come in with to our district, that could be different. It could be different, I think. And our jobs could look different. And so that's how I would pose some of the opportunities that I think would be available for this.
I should send you my article.
Yes, please do, please do.
I also have one thing I would think is another challenge that I could see in our district, that the diversity of staff recruitment have not met in the past. So we finally put in in a policy and look into the gap and the diversity gap, you know, between, you know, I mean, staff or administrator, teacher, stuff like that. So I think that's one thing that I think that is also is a challenge we have not met.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. This has been good. This has been good. And keeping in mind, you're still going to have an opportunity to add to these ideas when you go on the online survey. And that's another opportunity. We always encourage board members to ensure that their constituents are aware of that and can continue to put forth their ideas and their thoughts, because the more voices we hear, the more collective wisdom that we can gather, the better position profile we'll develop and the better candidate we'll be able to screen and vet for you to make sure you get the superintendent that's best for Eastside.
I think we just summarize it with walk on water. You know,
That's where we
I think that's
started.
where we started and that's where we're going to end.
That's where we started. I wrote that down.
Yes, yes, that's what it is. Exactly that. So with that, are there any other questions regarding the process, procedures, and so on before we wrap up our meeting?
I want to just add that if anything comes to mind and you think of something after this, don't hesitate to reach out to one of us. Mary has all of our emails and our phones. So, just, you know, don't hesitate to say, oh, I forgot to say whatever. That's fine. We're available. So be sure you access us when you need us.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
I guess I just want to add another bit of language to what I've been trying to say, and it all fits under the, you know, the strategic leadership and the consensus building in the face of conflict and all of that stuff. And that is not only a distinction between formal and informal leadership, you know, the opinion leaders, but also the distinction between formal and informal processes that a lot of times conventional administrative leadership will rely on formal processes to begin moving an initiative and not really pay a whole lot of attention to the informal consultations and laying of groundwork that could be very helpful in, you know, starting to plant the seeds and create a foundation for especially any initiative that is going to, you know, provoke debate and some possible pushback. That the distinction between informal and formal processes is a somewhat sophisticated one. It may sound simple, but it, you know, it isn't. As I've witnessed it in organizations, when someone gets that distinction, they really are, you know, almost halfway to a goal. So.
Thank you for that.
Hey, then Vaughn, I think unless you have something else for us, you can adjourn your meeting and we will sign off.
Yeah, any other board member has any question? Then we will adjourn the item 6.01, and I would like to take about 5 minutes.
Does that mean we can excuse our consultants?
Yes.
If they need to go, because you're welcome to stay, but you don't need to for this last item.
Thank you so much, everybody. You take care.
Have a good evening.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you very much. We're looking forward to working with you.
Yeah, and just kind of remind us from deadline so we remember to give some input. Can I take a few minute break?
Sure.
Can we take maybe 5-minute break before we enter 6.02?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thanks. So right now it's 7:58, so we reconvene at 8:05. 03. Thank you.
8:03 for 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes. Our board come back. I've not seen Patty and,
I'm here.
oh, yeah, okay. How about Brian? We have everyone coming back? We wait for Brian.
I'm still here. I haven't left. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
I've just put myself on mute. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you. All right.
My question, Madam President, where did this language come from for this proposed resolution?
You mean 6.02?
Yeah, she hasn't introduced it yet.
Oh,
Yeah, 6.02 is a discussion and action to adopt resolution 2020-2021-15, condemning the violent seditious actions at our nation capital inflicted by President Donald Trump. Board Clerk Lorena Chavez, could you present it?
Yes, so I brought this forward. I mentioned this last week. I don't know if you remember, but I said I would be bringing a resolution this upcoming week to discuss this, right? So I thought, and I still do believe that it's important that we help our students understand what happened on January 6th. Right, for a lot of students and even adults, right? It's a scary time, and as leaders, I believe that it's important that we stand for something, right? And that's something that I named then and I'll name again is our Constitution, right? We teach our Constitution in our classrooms. We show why our Constitution is important and that it's the framework of our democracy, and the actions that took place on January 6th are in complete contradiction of these values. And so it's important that we help our students make meaning of what happened on this day in our country that has caused a lot of upset and confusion. As educators, I think it's important that we continue to work hard to make our students in our district or support our students in our district to understand the principles of our Constitution so that when they witness something like what happened on January 6th, they know why these events are so offensive. And so therefore, I am bringing this resolution to the board.
so where did the language come from?
I brought it forward. Colleagues of mine supported in crafting this, and this has actually been passed in other districts nearby.
So did the other districts get it from, usually something like this originates somewhere and then it spreads, as
Yeah.
opposed to, for
So
example,
my colleagues in other districts were the main writers of this.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
I
Vice
don't have a
President?
question, I have a comment. When the House of Representatives passed their impeachment articles, they judged it best to keep it simple, you know, to not add so much more that could have been added, but which would have started to split off and create an inability to move quickly on the thing that everybody agreed with, you know, which was the seditious behavior and, you know, and so on. And there are things in here that represent the kind of almost universal language that you just used, Lorena, to describe the Constitution and all of that. But then this got amped up. There's more stuff that is put in here and more languages put in here that goes beyond just the simplicity of, you know, the insurrection, the sedition. There's just things here that are like moderates, conservatives, liberals, Republicans, Democrats, they're all going to agree on some of these paragraphs. And then the debate starts as you start to put other things in there and make it a multi-purpose statement. And I haven't had a chance to really be with it, but in my first glance, you know, at a policy level, as a board representing a whole constituency and not just, you know, a sector of the political spectrum, my inclination is to want to go for the simple, direct statements and not to load it so much with secondary issues, not secondary, but corollary issues and so on. And I'm not prepared tonight to support it. If we vote on it tonight, I'm probably going to abstain. But if I had a chance to be with this more and offer some feedback for this district on what it will adopt, then I'd probably more inclined. But I just looked at it for the first time tonight, and I'm a little uncomfortable with some of the language. Not because I disagree with it, because I feel like I represent, and this board represents, people on across the political spectrum about an egregious, occurrence at the state capitol.
I believe that Glenn Vandersea, you have a public comment, right, Glenn? Are you going to read it or?
Yes, I can read the public comment. Is it possible to get the language of the resolution on the page, because this speaker does refer to actual language within the resolution?
Okay.
This comment comes from Julio Pardo, staff. In paragraph 1, I feel the word inflicted should be incited or encouraged. I would also like to see added after Trump and other public government and public persons. Also, I believe it is cultural ethnic studies we need to encourage. Along with that, we need to look how we are delivering the history of our nation. Very few of the warts were mentioned when I was a student. Is that being done now? That is the end of written public comment.
That's really thoughtful, and it argues for my saying that we ought to have a chance to work with this a little bit instead of just adopt it as is.
I actually interpret that a little different. I think there's appreciation for talking about this, right? I think we often shy away from this, and it's important that we talk about it, that we support our community in engaging with this. And I agree with you 100%, Manuel, in the sense that, like, we are not, I am not trying to say pro-Trump, anti-Trump, Republican, Democrat, conservative, you name it, right? I think it's important that we talk about the issue here, right? And if you also remember the comment that Julio mentioned earlier, I think it was derived from this that sparked some of the work that we're doing. And so he made a connection with it.
I agree we should talk about it. I didn't say we shouldn't talk about it.
Yeah. Van, I think there is some other edits that could potentially be
revise it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before I start my comments, and I received a couple email. We talk about this resolution from the community member. You want me to read it? I don't know, because I think it's what they looking to, for the text, but I think is we did not use the text for the special meeting. So they send it to me, but they'll say they also send it to Superintendent Fung already. But so you want me to read them, or you want to discuss, or I want to state give my revised version, or to listen. You open up to listen to other board colleagues and the student board representative, Bruce. You want me to read the comments from the community member?
I think there was a place where we got one that was a representative of all of that, like that's been taken into account. Right. And so there was some suggestions,
right,
I think, that were top of mind for you, that could solve for some of the stuff that we're talking about right now. And I wonder if you can share.
Okay.
That, so that way we don't get too much into this mess.
I already sent my my version to all board colleagues and the superintendent, as well as Council Radio rules about this item 6.02, and what I feel as and the community also addressed with me for a couple of reasons, that some of the reason also mentioned that especially Mr. Trump no longer hold the office of president, so I want to remove the reference to him to be removed from that office. It's no longer an issue. And also is a couple reference to treason, since the article of impeachment approved by Congress charge him with inciting violence against the government of the United States and do not charge him with a treason. And also I agree that the words spoken that the day incite people and the violence that occur are unacceptable in our democracy. But I'm concerned about the words used in the proposed resolution will create more division on the subject that bring us together and move us forward. So I have my version.
Comment from?
Yes.
I'm sorry, you're conveying someone else's comment?
No. This is what I got from some of the community member.
Oh,
This is
see.
the part that I put up together, and I have my the version that I sent to Chris. Did you have that my version?
What you just read echoes a little bit of what I was trying to say.
Yes. So I have my version. Chris, one, could you put that in there? And I do have like a couple community also send an email, just have send an email to me, and they say, please forward my message to the board meeting. You know, like the mob who broke into Congress House were dressed like protester, but the action were never meant to support President Trump. We all should condemn them, not Donald Trump. So it's that's a couple of them, and we not agree with the resolution because to condemn President Trump provoke violence is not true. He always called for law and order. But my revision of this resolution, Mary, could you put my revision, my version, or so Chris, could you?
Please give me a second. I'm trying to get it up.
Okay, thank you. As you know that I have to say this, the majority part of the Vietnamese immigrant come to United States because we want the freedom, we want democracy, and we want human rights. And we was forced from the communist regime, which is in Vietnam. And the whole true thing is why that a lot of Vietnamese immigrants support the former President Donald Trump, because they feel that with his foreign policy, you know, will pretty much not want to give China more opportunity, and also to be involved in the United States country. So what they want to look into, that they're afraid that, you know, with the new Biden administration, that we have much more tighter relationship and more foreign policy with China, and we were afraid that we're going to be in the same situation in Vietnam. So when they read this resolution with a strong word, and I took the time and I revised it, so make it softer, and also that I acknowledge that couple of things that we mentioned about the Black Lives Matter and also ethnic study. So I want to revise it in the sense that, you know, the community can understand what they come from, how would they take a look of this. I don't want the division in our community as well as our country anymore. I hope that this revision will give us the opportunity that if we can unite it, we can heal the wound that happened in our country, in our community, so we can move it forward to support all of this issue relating to our students. So I removed a couple paragraphs, and I did run by board member Lorena Chavez. You know, just hopefully that some of the words are very strong, but I think that I finally revised it in the content that we could accept it. So that's why I want to present to all of you tonight that my version. How would I listen to the community as well as the leader to want to bring everyone back together and united and to be healed. That is what my content. So Board Vice President Pereira, you can take a look and revise. I thought I already sent it to you. To all.
Yeah, I have it on my phone. You sent it tonight.
Yeah, I sent it tonight. I apologize because I was thinking that, I could send it earlier, but I was so busy at work. So I finally sent it tonight. So
let me point out a typo on the where is it? Therefore, can we drop down to where it says therefore? Okay, so therefore it says act of sedition, Donald Trump, the violent destructive acts of the mob against, it should say against the democratic, not Democrat, against the democratic process.
Okay. Right, thank you.
So I still think this needs a little bit more thoughtful review and editing, and I'm gonna just abstain tonight if we act on it tonight, so.
Glenn, thank you for sharing all of the context. In our conversation earlier, I really appreciated you sharing the feedback. I think it's important that we pay attention to all the feedback across our communities, because we have people, that obviously, reached out and we're not comfortable for all the reasons that you named. We have other people who are saying like, this is exactly what we need to be talking about and not shying away from this, right? We need to support our students in making meaning and take a stance against these actions, right? Like, I don't want to, create any divide, but really, make a statement. I think it's important. And I'm not saying that, Manuel, what you're saying, that has nothing to do with this. But I want to just reinforce that, reiterate that. And Manuel, I wish we.
So, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I don't feel comfortable with you equating voting for or against a resolution, equating it with talking about it. I agree we should be talking about this. So if I'm not ready to vote for this, doesn't mean I'm saying we should not be talking about it. And you keep equating the two.
Got it. Point taken. Apologies for that. Yeah, I think it's important that that we vote on it and we take a stance with. I recommend the language that Vun suggested, right? For a middle ground, right? In moving forward, I don't know that there's ever going to be a perfect version, right? And we receive these documents in advance, so I would hate to continue putting this off. If you have any suggestions right now, I welcome them.
You talking to me?
Yeah, or
Yeah.
anyone else, actually, not just you.
No, I'm aware that I'm having initial reactions, and that if I was more able to just be with it and look at just a turn of a phrase that would say the same thing and just resolve, other ways that it could be read, that I would probably wordsmith it and still end up in the same place. But I'm not prepared to do that tonight.
I'm sorry, can I suggest, when we have policy changes, we usually do set 2 readings. And we do have a board meeting next week. Can I suggest that we just carry this over just 1 week? I agree this is timely and we shouldn't drag it on, but given that our board meeting isn't a month away, it's a week away. I think it might be worthwhile to, because there is some strong language in here, and rightly so. I mean, it was an egregious thing that we witnessed, and I think it's important not to step over it and to acknowledge it so that we can get complete with what happened and move the conversation forward. I also think it's very important that we look at, and this is maybe not for the resolution, I don't know where this fits in, but I know for myself as an American, I'm looking at what conversations am I having or not having that would have people get this angry.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Patty. Brian, do you have anything you want to share?
I do. First of all, I share the passion that my fellow board member Lorena is feeling now. But I also want to have, if possible, a unanimous vote on these issues. And if the compromise, as board member Patty's Cortez has suggested, is 1 week to have better chance of all of us vote unanimous, I would feel comfortable waiting a week. A week is not that far away, and I would love to have more conversations so that the language reach the point where all of us will feel more comfortable. And I don't want to pressure my board member to vote tonight if he's not, he or she is not comfortable yet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally comfortable voting abstain. So, but I hear you saying you'd like a unanimous one. And
if possible, I'm not saying we absolutely have to, but if the delay is more 1 week to have a better chance of that, then I'm very comfortable in respecting and giving you the time. And I myself will also want to look at the language carefully between the two versions. I just see the version by board member Vung Lei tonight, and I haven't had a chance to review it carefully, and I don't want to say that one version is better than the other until I have a chance to review both and compare side by side, even myself. But
so by the way, the title here on Vaughn's version, condemning the violent seditious actions at our national capital on January 6, 2021.
Right.
I'm so behind that, heart, soul, and spirit.
Yes.
I love the thrust of it. I love the message of it. And then, yeah, if I had a chance to wordsmith some of the paragraphs there, I could probably get totally on board the same way with the title that I'm totally on board on.
All right.
Well, so look like, all of us want to, well, I'm sure what Lorena, do you think that we can, refer this resolution 1 week, which is next week? So we have a little bit more time for our board to review it and vote it next week, Lorena?
I think it is clear that there is a consensus.
Okay.
I can't say that I am not disappointed. I am disappointed, especially because we get these items in advance and we have time to read through it. So I would have hoped that we would have came to this table ready to engage. Sorry, these are the feelings that I'm feeling right now. And at the same time, I am grateful that we are engaging in this. And I really hope in the future, it's not just me who brings up these kinds of items. I think it's a responsibility of each and every one of these board members on this dais.
I appreciate your comments, Lorena, and I understood how you feel right now. But any other board comments, before we want to defer this item to next week? And I also like to hear from student board representative, Bruce, maybe next week, or you want to share your comment today?
Yeah, I don't really have a lot to talk about in terms of the resolution. I do understand that the board is sort of at odds. That's what I can see right now. So perhaps in a week or so, if the language gets revised and if things do get resolved by then I think I can take a position, and also I can gather more input from the students as well on what they believe. I did share this resolution with a couple of other students of mine, and well, at face glance, they do support the resolution. I think the general population of the student body also supports this, but I do understand that on the administrative level there may be some pushback on that, and I do hope that there is some sort of compromise, in order to have this passed with the board.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. So we will defer this item 6.02 to next board meeting. And I hope that our board member, we take time and probably we take two versions, Lorena version and my version, and analyze it and revise whatever you feel much more comfortable. Then we will close it, finalize it to vote next week. That is what I think will be, be much appropriate for unanimously.
Madam President, may I suggest that perhaps I have a feeling that Board Member Herrera may have his own versions. I think so I'm hoping that he may actually help us with the wordsmith some of these so that we can have what I'm hoping for is a unanimous vote at next meeting.
Yes, I hope that too. Yes.
I want to clarify something that maybe I misunderstood Lorena in one of her last comments, that I thought, Lorena, that you were acceding to the version that Vaughn had put forward as the one that we would vote on, or were you not yet ready to go to Vaughn's version?
No, I was ready. I'm ready.
That's what I thought.
I'm
That's what I
ready.
thought. So anything that I would wordsmith would be Vaughn's version.
Not necessarily. I invite you to look at both. I invite everyone to look at both. Especially since we're taking the time to really look through this and figure out what this means for us. I think we should look at both. That's just my 2 cents. I am not married to one specific version. What I feel very strongly about, let me be clear, is that we talk about these things, right? That is what is a non-negotiable for me. The exact language, I'm flexible.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, it's just so important, and it feels like I'm a little disappointed. I can't say I'm leaving this board meeting without, I'm disappointed, but this is where we're at, and that's okay, because we're at least as a board saying we're going to continue the conversation, and I can see that it's uncomfortable for some of us, including myself. And you know what? That's healthy. That's healthy, because we're not the only ones in these positions, right? There are students, there are staff, there are community members, and we're modeling this. This is part of the role. So while this is a hard moment for me, it's also a moment that I'm cherishing.
So, Madam President, if I may, I'm just a little concerned about the process in terms of does staff add the original document in your document as attachment to the agenda, and then all of a sudden there might be a revised one, a third one that comes the day before or today, like with your version? I mean, we need to allow the public to be able to see these documents in advance. And so I think my suggestion would be that if the consensus is more towards Madam Presidents, that we take that and over the weekend we get input from trustees, and that we try to have a final recommended version for Monday that we can attach for the public to see.
I think that's going to be necessary if we're going to act on this next week.
You don't think we have time to review and vote next week, Manuel?
No, but Chris is saying it's got to be distributed ahead of the meeting, which means this review process and any recommended revision needs to be done in time for it to be distributed on Monday, is what I'm hearing Chris say.
Well, it just in all fairness for the public to see it in advance, unless we are going to take a document and wordsmith it during the board meeting for the board to approve, I just don't think it's fair to submit a resolution the day of, hours before a board meeting, and then expect the board to vote on it.
Yes.
So I'm going to commit myself to issuing something tomorrow to the, I don't know who I would forward it to, but this is my concept, and then it's just a concept. I'm totally amenable to it being collectively revised or other suggestions or whatever, but I'll commit myself to having something out by tomorrow afternoon.
I appreciate that. And any other board member want to share your thought or comments, with the two versions right now, or, please send it to Chris and myself. then we will coordinate it and put together, for the Monday, right, Chris?
Yes.
As 5 p.m. is the latest time, so.
Given how important this issue is and the timely manner that we're hoping to achieve, and since we delayed by 1 week, I'm hoping that if we need to, we can allocate the time at the next board meeting to discuss this in detail if we need to, and the worksmith, if we could not reach an agreement on which versions finally come out, would you be willing to spend time to discuss that?
Yeah, and I would recommend, if this is coming out on Monday, that we all take time to review in advance the latest version, so that, because I think the 5 of us wordsmithing in a board meeting is, that sounds like,
Painful.
it sounds painful, yes.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So from different perspective, I think it's, yeah, if any board member want to send back the vision, what about the resolution, and so please send it to Chris and myself, and we will condense it and we send out the final one to everyone before we put it on the agenda, right, Chris? Then we can talk about it. Because otherwise we're gonna have,
sounds good.
Otherwise we have 3 versions of the resolution. It's gonna be headache to talk about it. So at least, maybe the the editing, the wording, or the phrases, what you feel about it, maybe combine it and send it to us at least on Monday. And I will take time with Chris, and we collaborated and condensed it into one.
So
and we can discuss.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Manuel, you said you're sending something by midday tomorrow? Is that
No,
what you said?
sometime tomorrow afternoon, I said.
Okay, tomorrow afternoon.
Sometime, because I have meetings tomorrow, several.
Okay, sometime tomorrow. Can you send it to the board so that we just all look at that, and then like keep on working off of one, and then send that end product to Chris, so that everyone is looking at one version and that's it?
I'd like to do it that way. I'm afraid our attorney would caution us
Yeah,
about.
that's why I want to ask Rogelio too. Rogelio, is it we violate the Brown Act? If send to everyone, or what?
So if there's any communications around the same document involving more than 2 board members, then that raises Brown Act problems. So it would really, someone really should ideally take 1 or 2 board members, take the lead to, absorb the comments tonight, present a draft, provide it to the superintendent for posting with the agenda for next week, and then board members can prepare their edits time for next week.
So I'd like to propose that that Lorena and I work on any revisions that may or may not result here, and I would certainly take into account what Vaughn has put forward, and her taking into account some feedback she received. I would work with that for any suggestions that I might want to offer, but if Lorena and I could be the 2 board members to kind of get something locked in that could be put on the agenda next week, I think it would end up representing both Vaughn's concerns and other concerns and so on.
I think I'm okay with that. Board member Patty Cotizzi or Brian have any other comments? Because we have, if we 5 of us, we gonna jump in and we will have to violate our Brown Act.
Yes.
So
No, I would agree.
I am, if I had to vote tonight, like if we all agreed we're gonna vote tonight, I would have voted for Vaughn's version. So that's a good starting point for me. So I'm very comfortable with Manuel and Lorena working together. And then if I have feedback, I can independently send that in to Chris. It could just get consolidated, and we can redline it the way we do a second reading, right? So we can see what the changes are.
Yeah.
I'm in the exact same boat as Patty. If I have to vote tonight, I'm probably, I haven't had a chance to study Van version as closely as the other. because I just get it to receive it tonight, but I probably would lean toward Jivang versions a little bit more. Nonetheless, I'm comfortable voting tonight.
Fun's version.
Fun's version. He said in Vietnamese that Jivan, a sister, I'm older than him.
All right. All right. That's good feedback. All right, Manuel. I guess.
All right. Yes, so Chris, that's all we need. So you guys work together, Manuel and Lorena, then we will defer this item until next week, which is January 28th. So
Lorena, ideally, by what time tomorrow afternoon would you want to receive my suggested edits or version?
Whenever you want. I have a long day tomorrow, so it doesn't matter.
So you won't get to until later in the day.
Yeah, I won't be able to see it till after 5.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
all right, are we all set? Then we can move forward.
Yeah, and
Anything else, Lorena?
I was gonna say, just so you want to know, it sounds like folks were comfortable with your version, and I'm okay with that as well. So that'll be the starting point, so you want to know, and then we'll just move from there.
Thank you, Board Member Lorena.
Well, maybe I should just take one quick minute and reread it. Maybe I'll just get on board with it tonight then. Jesus, if Lorena's on board and, you know,
I see you, Chris. That's what I'm thinking too. I'm like,
okay, never mind. I'll send something tomorrow. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right, we're gonna move forward to item number 7. I don't think we have anything for closed session, right, Rogelio?
no.
That's correct. No actions.
All right, and for, well, 8.01, that I'm gonna adjourn the meeting, and thank you for all your comments and the community, as well as very good dialogue and communications for the item that we really dear to our heart for the resolution. But I think is we also have a good conversation with the leadership associate to search process for the next superintendent. So we have to say is that now is 8:42. Thank you everyone for a special meeting, and I will see you all next week, next Thursday.